All right, let's do this. Micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and water. So we're starting off with vitamins. So the role of vitamins in general, and honestly, if you take away nothing, but you just kind of remember one thing, I would say would be this slide. Like their whole job is to act as like a precursor for different processes. Like that's what's kind of interesting. Like vitamins don't become part of your body. They don't really, they don't give you any structure. They're not their own kind of thing. Really, more than anything, they're super similar to enzymes, which also makes sense because, like I have said a few times now, when you look at the structure of a vitamin, organic compounds containing hydrogen, oxygen, and sometimes nitrogen, they're really similar. Oh, I forgot carbon. It's the most important one, carbon. They're really similar to proteins. Well, what's a good example of a protein? Enzymes, right? These are so small that they're not like officially actually proteins. They're kind of like mini proteins. So they wouldn't have any calories, and they're not quite strong enough to be like a full-blown enzyme on their own. So I guess they get the special term that we call coenzymes. Or, for me, I'm like, just call them mini enzymes. So that's their job. They're precursors for different processes. They're important for the development of various compounds in the body. One of the ways your body is going to combine other stuff together, they're going to help the enzymatic reaction from a vitamin is going to allow that to happen. And it is possible for them to improve sports performance when they are taken adequately if you are vitamin deficient beforehand. I will say, again, extra vitamins doesn't really do anything for you. Overfilling a water bottle doesn't make that water bottle any fuller than it could be. So this is where we come back to our DRIs. I told you guys these would make their way into our notes eventually. And here they are. So, our dietary reference intakes, that's DRIs, right, are basically, describing like how much of a vitamin or mineral, or really just a nutrient, because even like, even carbohydrates have a DRI. Um, they're basically how much of it we think people, I mean, like uppercase P people, like all of us, but average to us, need very much on average. So a lot of these DRIs and a lot of RDAs and EARs and all that stuff, they're not custom to you or custom to me. They're just meant to be kind of general rules for like brand human. So first one we're looking at is the RDA. This is the old one that you guys probably grew up with or you're most familiar with, the one that we still use. And that's the average daily nutrient intake that's sufficient to meet the nutrient needs of most healthy individuals in a particular life stage or age group. So basically, it's like they looked at studying how getting people just this much vitamin C. And they're like, okay, well, for most people, that's the right amount of vitamin C. Could you have a vitamin C deficiency? Or maybe you process vitamin C very badly. Maybe you have liver damage or something like that. Sure. So then you fall into it. But I would say that's probably less common in less than 2 to 3% of the population. So in general, those numbers that you'll see on like a nutrition label where it says this is worth this much percent or that much percent, that's an RDA. And it's based around the idea that you need that much. Um, zero point 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is adequate for 98% of people, if they are sedentary. Obviously, strength athletes, it goes up, right? But maybe there's that person out there who that's way too much. They might have kidney problems, and so they really have kidney problems. So like it is important for you to back off on that protein. But generally the RDA is a pretty good rule to follow. There's also the EAR. This is what if we can't establish like a really good RDA, the EAR is the average nutrient intake that is estimated to meet the requirements of half of healthy individuals. So this will meet 50% of people. So this is what's happened sometimes if like this is more of like a medical thing, but like yeah, they'll be like, okay, well, there's a large group of people that are unhealthy. On average, let's try this, and then yeah, they got a 50-50 shot of it basically being accurate. So that's the estimated average requirement. This one doesn't come up very often. It's really much more niche in like the medical community, and usually also like all these things they're looking at like large scale populations. Like EARs are really helpful when you are determining like where to send like food and aid to like a country that might need it at any given time. Adequate intake level. AI. That is the recommended average based on approximations for a specific group of people. So adequate intake and tolerable upper intake, these two here are kind of like the reverse of each other. Adequate intake is basically the bare minimum for a specific, but it is also in regards to a specific group. So you wouldn't necessarily like use adequate intake for just like standard people. You'd be like, oh, you have osteoporosis, that group of people needs this much calcium, right? So like adequate intake gets very specific about whatever population it's talking about. Diabetics, they need a minimum of this, right? People with cardiovascular disease need a minimum of this, right? That doesn't mean that you couldn't get more benefits going a little bit higher, you know, but adequate intake is where like sometimes it goes, it's used when the RDA cannot be determined because they don't have large volume testing of all the various different like conditions and comorbidities in the world. And then tolerable upper intake is the opposite. It's the highest average intake likely to pose no risk. So basically, it's like, yeah, if you take this much of this, it might be a little bit too much, but probably isn't going to hurt you. You go above that, and it's like you could actually start to have some risk of certain diseases. So, like for instance, just like sometimes it's rare. It's really hard to overdose on a vitamin. It's really hard to overdose on a mineral, but it can happen. Shantice, I've been dying to kind of pull this guy up. This is probably why my video got pulled down. But here's a really quick, just brief video here. I'm going to pause this recording so it doesn't. So breaking down our vitamins, we break them down into categories. We've already talked about this. We've got our water-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble dissolve in water, and then they are transported in water. These are the ones that are typically acting as coenzymes. So coenzymes are attached to an enzyme and make its enzyme ability work a little bit better. So they're not an enzyme, but they're like an enzyme's enzyme. And that's your entire B list, as well as vitamin C. So we're going to start with water soluble today. Then we'll get into fat soluble vitamins. Now, these assist in other things. They usually interact with different minerals throughout the body so that the minerals can do their thing. And they are fat soluble, which means they dissolve in fat, but also they are carried and transported in fat. So you need cholesterol in order to adequately synthesize and mobilize your fat soluble vitamins. So let's go through the list here. Water-soluble vitamins: thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, B6, B12, folate, biotin, pantothenic acid, choline, and of course, vitamin C. And there we go. We're done. No. I will say you will notice I did not do listy stuff or anything that I thought was, too much. So this is where we start moving quick. So essential vitamin B1, aka thiamine. You'll sometimes see this in fortified foods. Pretty rare in the US that someone is going to be B1 deficient because a lot of times we're adding it to foods that are just really common in the US diet. They'll add thiamine to rice and they'll add it to cereal and things like that. It's really important for a healthy nervous system. It actually allows you to convert glycogen to energy. So the process of like storing glycogen, but then the process of breaking that glycogen back down, thiamine's really like big on doing that. So it's very helpful for energy. Again, one more reason why we say B vitamins give you energy. They don't have any energy of their own, but yes, they allow other parts of your metabolism to do stuff. Good sources: whole grains. Again, they're going to be adding them to whole grains all the time. And then things that grew in the ground: legumes, wheat germ, nuts. But then pork is actually a really good example. Weirdly, pork is going to be on the list for every one of these B vitamins. Like, I don't know, something about pork is like the USDA's favorite source of like all B vitamins. It's just like it's on the list every time. If you're not a big pork person, that's okay. You can get it from pretty much any protein source. So then we got B2, aka riboflavin. I got one fun fact for this one. Riboflavin is probably what you see if you ever like taken a vitamin supplement and then like gone to the bathroom later and it looks like you're peeing like a highlighter. It's like that is highlighter fluid yellow, it's almost like green. That's riboflavin. If you get too much, um, your body basically pees it out, which is true of most of your water soluble vitamins, right? That's why water soluble vitamins, if you look at a like nutrition label, let's look at a multivitamin um, nutrition facts. Let's just find one of these at random here. You look at like a lot of nutrient facts on like multivitamins, and you'll see it's just like 117%, 125%. And it's like, well, aren't we worried about going above that tolerable upper intake level? Didn't you just say like too much of something can actually cause? So doesn't, yeah, if you're taking a ton of supplements, yeah, maybe it'll cause problems for you. But for the most part, the ones that you'll see them crank up like crazy are the B vitamins, like niacin, riboflavin, thiamine. You'll see like they'll look at B6, 250%, pantothenic acid. So they'll crank up the water soluble stuff because honestly, like water soluble vitamins, you get too much of them, your body will just pee it right out. It really is like, okay, I got everything I need. What do I do with the rest of these? To the bladder, which is why riboflavin, you see it come out in your bladder a lot of times, comes out bright, 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 bright yellow. Now deficiency can lead to decreased performance. We can't break down like, your aerobic energy production from carbs, fats, and proteins. Again, this is helping in the Krebs cycle. A lot of B vitamins are going to be part of the Krebs cycle. So if you don't have a good source of B vitamins, it could interrupt your ability to like produce aerobic energy. So dairy, bread, cereal products, mushrooms, and eggs, all really good examples there. Niacin, this is a big one. Nicotinic acid and nicotinamide are both good examples of where you can find vitamin B3. This is another one that's really important for your energy production. This is one that actually helps your mitochondria in particular. And yes, that is relatively similar to nicotine. So nicotine found in, cigarettes, obviously, but other things, that's the part of cigarettes that we talk about as being addictive. Well, why would your body ever be addicted to something? Probably because it's something that it's used to using. So yeah, actually, you'll find little, very similar chemical structures between nicotine and vitamin B3, which is one of the reasons why it tricks your body into thinking, oh my gosh, I need lots of this. You know, so without it, your mitochondria doesn't function quite as well. This can, be a big part of allowing your mitochondria to do things. So without enough of it, your body might not be spitting out energy very effectively. That can lead to like, you've got a whole giant organ here in your skin. That can lead to like your skin actually getting damaged, which is why you'll oftentimes see like niacin in like a lot of like beauty products sometimes. It can lead to mental confusion because your brain is basically just not functioning very well. Lack of energy, muscle weakness, also part of the brain there. But yeah, this one pretty hard to like get like it's pretty hard to run out of niacin though because it's found in pretty much anything with protein. Like if it's got protein, you're probably getting plenty of niacin, so nothing to worry about there. Now B6, this is a big one. B6, another one that helps us break down glycogen for energy production, but it also allows us to do gluconeogenesis. So, where do we find B6? I'm going to jump forward here. Protein. Anything with protein is going to have B6 in it, right? So, weird example, but I talked about this. I think I mentioned this the other day. I foreshadowed here. But like cats, actually, they are strictly obligate carnivores. They only eat meat. But weirdly, cats still run metabolically the same way we do. They still do glycolysis. And that's like, well, where are they getting glucose from? Like cats can't taste glucose. It's not part of their diet. They don't know what glucose is. How are they doing glycolysis if they're not like having regular glucose? Basically, their liver just converts protein, amino acids, into glucose through gluconeogenesis. Vitamin B6 is a big part of that. So again, I talked about like if we could just, and by the way, it takes a ton of water, which is why cats are like constantly dehydrated. If you got a cat, find a way to get them to like drink more. Good luck. But I was reading a factoid about that at one point. They were like, yeah, basically every cat in the world is just like a little more dehydrated than they should be. I hope that's not true of our cat. I feel like our cat is like the most hydrated cat in the world. She drinks all the time, which is great. But yeah, so that's what B6 is for. Helps break down glycogen for energy production, but also assists in gluconeogenesis. And then on the flip side, flip it to, so taking an amino acid and breaking it apart, turning it into glucose, that's one thing. Flip it around, take amino acids and link them together. That also takes B6. So they can make amino acids. Remember we talked about having essential amino acids and non-essential. Let's say you are missing a non-essential amino acid. You didn't get enough of it in your diet. Well, it's non-essential. No big deal. Our body will simply make that tryptophan by converting another amino acid and ripping it apart and putting it back together. B6 also helps in your neurotransmitters. It also helps in the production of hemoglobin. It is doing a lot. Luckily, I don't know. There's definitely deficiency in B6. But for the most part, this is something, if you have enough adequate protein in your diet, you're probably fine. So that's B6. Now B12, then now we can switch. Now we can talk about deficiency for the first time. So B12 is one that is also very important. B6 and B12 are very buddy-buddy. They both do very similar things. Also very much helping with energy production, also very much helping with the growth of different tissues. It also, B12 assists with one of our other, with our next B vitamin, which is like your folate metabolism, which folate is really important if you are going to grow another human. So like that's actually very helpful in the growth of human tissue in general. So if you are making another human, you'll oftentimes see like prenatal vitamins will have massive levels of folate. But we'll get into that in just a second. Can help prevent heart disease the same way that we just saw in the last one. Same thing with B6. So very similar to one of them, but usually deficiency is related to either a problem with absorption, so you might not be hydrating and getting enough water, so your body can't even get that B6, B12 into your body. And it can lead to what we call pernicious anemia, which is not like real anemia. It's like you have red blood cells that are supposed to be functioning the way they're supposed to, but they don't have the enzyme ability to like bind oxygen correctly. So it's like, hey, guess what? You have plenty of iron, but it's not working, you know? So it's kind of a special version. Again, one more reason why like B12 is important. That can lead to you feeling really crummy and like low energy. So where do you get it from? Animal products is the best source. Unfortunately, high protein foods like lentils and beans and soy and things like that, they're a really good source of B6, not such a great source of B12. So this is where, for an average healthy person, I'd say you're probably fine, you know? But for a vegetarian, for a vegan client, I would recommend taking like a B supplement. I'd say a B12 supplement, but honestly, here's what I'll also say, just like in my opinion, if you're gonna take like a B supplement in general, just take all of them. You know, like they sell B12, or you can get like a B12 shot, I guess, if you want to. People swear by B12 shots. I've never done my research on this, so really quickly, I'm just gonna put a giant asterisk next to everything I say here. But on my understanding of biology, a B12 shot to me seems very silly because like it's not continually introduced and it's water soluble. So you're constantly peeing it out. And so I'm like, I know that it can make you feel really good temporarily. Like I'm sure a B12 supplement, you're gonna feel like $1,000,000 for the next day or two. But like that seems like a crazy, like I know people, they'll get it like every 3 months and they're like, I swear by it, I got a B12 every 3 months. And I'm like, why don't you just take B12 every day? You know, like, I don't know. That to me,
Brad.
what was comments? What do we got?
Yeah, back in the 90s, like mid 90s, I went to Lindora weight loss clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a thing you had to be that you would go every day to the clinic. And it was
Oh, sure.
actually a keto diet before they were really talking about keto diets.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I got a shot of B12 daily.
Yeah. Daily, daily.
Daily. I think it was daily, at least
Oh,
3 times a week, if not daily.
that's
Monday through
brutal
Friday.
because it's supposed to burn, doesn't it? Like that's like a
But I don't recall, but I do know that when I didn't get one, I felt a difference.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, it's again, it's water soluble. It doesn't
It's
last
funny
very
because
long.
my mom would threaten me all the time if I didn't eat my vegetables. She's gonna take me to a doctor to go get shots for vitamins.
I'm Yeah, I'm
That's a
pretty sure it was daily. I know we were supposed to check. They wanted you there Monday through Friday.
oh, that's
Um,
funny. That's a good threat for me, by the way, because I'm a real baby about getting shots.
I don't
And
like
then
shots either, but when it came to that, I actually looked forward to it.
Yeah.
my mom actually told me that back in her day when she was a lot younger, her grandmother would take her to go get liver shots or something like that. I don't know.
Liver shots? I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, like I think they were vitamin B shots to begin
That
with.
would make
Like she
sense.
did say that they were very, very, very painful.
Yeah, I've heard that B12 like burns after you like you get it and then afterwards you're like, ah, like it kind of stings for a minute.
I don't recall one way or the other, but it
Mm.
was funny. I get them. Yeah.
Well, hey, here's all said. They definitely sell B12 supplements. You can see there's a million of them here. If it's me, just I don't know, just go get a B complex. Like now
Right.
again, that sounds a little. Oh, I love that by the way. Coenzyme B complex. That's actually fun. I've never seen somebody label it that way because people are like, what? Nobody knows what a coenzyme is. I will say that that's probably bad advice to do all of them if you're getting plenty of another B vitamin from somewhere else. But I would just say I wouldn't worry about it because again, too much B vitamin for the most part, usually you just pee it out. Which is why like if I were to take a vitamin, a B com, I would probably take a B complex over just a B12. So. But yeah, I can see that, Trisha. That makes total. I mean, total in that setting, that makes total sense. You know, they used to do that at the resort I worked at as well. We didn't do it for our regular guests, but the celebrity treatment, they all got it. um, which is why I know that it's supposed to sting. I've just
So
never.
like
They were a couple of the staff. They were like, "Do you guys want to go?" They got like, they're here. They would like the phlebotomist team. They'd like show up. Is here. Do you guys want? And I was every time I chickened out. I know.
so it's better to do the daily supplements, at least in regards to when it comes to like the B complex.
I would say so. I'd say, well, what I mean by that is I'd say that's better than what I hear a lot of times, which is somebody being like, yeah, every 3 months I go get a B12 shot. And I'm like, does that make sense for what? If you told me every 3 months you got a vitamin D shot, I'd be like, sure. You know, they're probably going to give you massive, massive amounts of vitamins A, D, E, or K. You know, fat soluble. It's going to get
Mhm.
into your blood. Your blood, it's going to find some fat to store in and hang out in, and that might last 3 months. You know, like that can stay for a while. I get when you tell me fat soluble, but water soluble. I'm like, I don't know. The shots don't make any sense to me unless it's daily energy, like Trisha was describing. That, sure, I get that. That makes sense.
Mm, that makes sense.
But then you look at me and I'm like, I hate needles. Give me the pill. Freaking hate needles.
I don't like them either. I mean, don't
So
get me
then
wrong.
follow-up question. So because of the fact that most supplements would have the B complex, obviously would have a little bit of everything,
Mhm.
would you actually be able to reach the tolerable upper intake with them?
I'm sure you could. Yeah, I'm sure you
But I
could.
mean, you'd have to take it excessively, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think it happens often, you know. And a lot of vitamins, you'll notice if I go back, again, let's look at a multivitamin. Honestly, you know which one I really like? In the times that I take multivitamins, I really like the Trader Joe's one. Believe it or not, I think that there's two things that I personally look for in a supplement. Has nothing to do with its nutrient content other than I look for nutrient wise. I look for that it doesn't have any added nonsense. Like I want it to be I want it to be a bunch of vitamins crushed together and nothing else. I don't need it to taste a certain way. I don't need any of that nonsense in there. And then I really hate it. This is just a personal, like psychological thing for me. It drives me crazy when I have to take two. I'm like, I want one, I want one. Like, so Trader Joe's actually does a really good job of that. It probably means that it's not like that's a 2 tablet one actually. Um, Oh, come on. See, now there we go. There's the one tablet one. Like, of course, as I say that, I pull up and it says serving size two. Um, but you can see, like, this one here, actually it does have a lot of overly vitamin A, but vitamin C, B, it doesn't, like 1,000% of biotin, so that's kind of a lot, right? But like a lot of these are just hovering right around 100, I guess it
Mm.
goes a little heavy on the vitamin A, it goes a little heavy on the vitamin E. Um, but like probably not enough to hurt you. And then the other thing is one thing that everybody needs to remember when you see those percentages, they are based on a 2,000 calorie diet.
Yeah, I
So
was just about to ask that because I know that some of them tend to fixate more on the bigger doses. So that's why I was asking if taking too much of that would affect you. If that
probably
makes
not, especially not if you're active.
sense. Okay.
If you're
Because that,
metabolizing more, you're going to be using more, right?
uh-huh.
Yeah. So doubtful, even on regular old vitamin supplements. Now, I will say this, it's also not quite the same. Another reason why they have to do this on vitamin supplements, it's a food, right? Like people are consuming it. So they have to put the nutrition facts on it. They're required to. That's a rule for food in the US. But it's also relatively easy. Those are based on like, okay, this is how much of this vitamin A is in here, right? Actually, let's use a different example. Let's say enzymes. Now, unfortunately, this example I'm using right now, it kind of breaks down because enzymes aren't, like there's no RDA for an enzyme. But let's say you take an enzyme, right? Um, and it did have an established RDA. Okay. Remember what I said yesterday about like steroids? You can't eat them
Yeah.
because like your stomach acid will just be like, oh, I'm gonna unfold that, it's gonna dissolve it. Well, that kind of happens in vitamins a little bit, which is why vitamin supplements haven't been shown to be like as effective as getting your vitamins and minerals from food. So that's the other thing. If it says like 150%, but maybe a lot of it doesn't make it into your bloodstream, because you're getting so much of it at one time, then yeah, it's true that there is 150% in that pill. And if all of that pill were directly introduced to your bloodstream, sure, maybe that's too much. But you got to remember, like, you're not really absorbing all that. That's why vitamin supplements have never topped eating real food. When vitamin supplements were first invented, that was like the big thing. It was the US military like wanted to try. They were like, well, we'll just give people calories in the form of like, potatoes or something. Like just like one very easy to ship and maintain food. And we'll just give them vitamin supplements. And they'll get all their vitamins from like a pill. So they tried that initially and everybody got deficient. Everybody got sick. And they were like, what
Would
the
it
hell?
be
It's like supposed to be enough vitamins, right? And it's like, well, they probably just didn't absorb them correctly, because that's not really how your body works.
would it possibly be that well, I mean, it might also be for the marketing aspect of it, but would it
Well,
be
yeah.
yeah. Would it be possible that the reason why they put so much of a particular vitamin is that so at least some of it does get into your system before it like gets completely excreted? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I mean, some of it does. I'm sure some of it does. There's no way all of it's getting fully destroyed every time. Otherwise, literally, we wouldn't observe anything from the vitamin. But what I'm saying is like if you're worried about overdosing on a vitamin because you're taking like Centrum or something, or like a multivitamin of some type, like little personal insight here, but like my wife and I are taking like I need to do it because I'm like so bad about taking supplements. Like I take whey protein, like regularly, but like I just am not a big supplement guy. I never have been. But like, like Lindsay and I were talking to her doctor at one point. We were like, we should consider like she should do the whole prenatal vitamin thing. Like if you can boost your mineral content in your body a little bit and boost like your folate and your biotin and things like that, which are going to be important, like, great. Let's maybe get a head start on that. Probably aren't going to get much from it, but maybe start a little bit. And then I was like, okay, well, if you're going to do it, I'll take a supplement. It can be a fun thing we do together. But yeah. So yeah, it's not, I mean, look, I would not worry about overdosing on vitamins. I really wouldn't. Next one we got is folate. Folate, this is the one crucial for DNA synthesis. So this is an important one. Folate is like how you make DNA. It's a part of like your cell division and stuff. So again, this is what you'll see in like prenatal vitamins. It helps prevent neural tube defects. It helps mature red blood cells. In an adult, it's going to reduce your risk of heart disease because again, blood cells. And this is the B vitamin that you actually typically find in plants. So this is usually found in like grains and flours and things like that. So again, not something we're commonly deficient in because, you know, there be lots of grains and plants in the American diet. But there certainly could be, you know, there could be deficiency there. So this is where like you'll see, in fact, if we look at it, take a look at a prenatal one, nutrition facts, click one of these here. And we'll probably see folate is real high. Boom, 1,300 milligrams, which is 227%. All right, cool. Probably good. You know, it's more than we need. I will say it also has EPA and DHA. Those are the omega-3s we talked about yesterday, which is really great. Again, those are important for making cell walls. Also important if you're going to grow a human. They also, so folate deficiency can, like I said, lead to neural tube defects. By the way, if you ever get a question about folate, it'll be that. That's the like fun factoid that stands out. I've seen that in NASM homework questions before. I don't know that you'll get it on your actual exam. You maybe get it on your nutrition thing, but your nutrition exam. But yeah, like folate's neural tube defect thing, I remember reading that in my edition of the NASM. So they've kept that little factoid around for years. I don't know why that's important to us in our industry. We're not training our clients to grow humans, but hey, there it is. Biotin, same thing. Biotin also helps with DNA production, so it's another one you'll see in you know, prenatals. You also see is also really important for gluconeogenesis, just like our B2 was. This can lead to fatigue, depression, nausea, and skin problems. Again, a lot of DNA in this giant organ that is our skin. So where are you going to find this? Legumes, cheese, egg yolks, nuts, green leafy vegetables. Really good sources out there. Biotin's another one that is all over the place. Pantothenic acid is kind of a fun one. This is another one that's really important for energy production. But like weirdly enough, this so this can both lead to you feeling more tired, but also without enough pantothenic acid, it can lead to you not sleeping well, which also makes you more tired. And nausea. It's a big part of our nervous system's ability to produce energy. So particularly in the brain energy production, pantothenic acid is very helpful for that. This is one, again, you're going to find in any animal product and any high protein like vegetable or legume. Pretty hard to be deficient in that. Choline, this one should sound a little familiar. The word choline should sound a little familiar. This is important for the formation of what we call acetylcholine, which is that neurotransmitter that every one of your neurons uses to talk to other neurotransmitter or other neurons, right? So remember, electricity runs down a neuron, and then that causes it to release acetylcholine. And when that acetylcholine binds to the next neuron, it starts generating electricity. And when it binds to a muscle, the muscle starts generating electricity. And that is how we do all the stuff. So not enough choline, you're going to feel a little bit of fatigue. It can actually lead to low blood pressure, weirdly enough, because your ability to dilate and constrict in your blood vessels is related to muscular contraction. And anything, this is kind of interesting. It's found in lecithin. Lecithin, by the way, is what you find in like Pam, like, you know, egg yolks, liver, nuts, milk, wheat germ, cauliflower is a good source, and soybeans. All of these things are a little pungent tasting, which is why if you have a super high protein diet, you're getting lots and lots and lots of choline, which is great, but it can also lead to increased body odor. There's two things that lead to bad body odor from high protein diets. One is choline. So you will start to smell like cauliflower that you left sitting in water too long. And you will also smell like urine because you'll sweat out the urea. So bros, see, this is why bros who go high on the protein, I've not known many women to have this problem, but I have definitely seen it in guys in the locker room before. And then we got ascorbic acid, aka vitamin C. We finally made it to the end of the list here. Now, vitamin C is really cool. It is our first on the list to act as an antioxidant. So antioxidants are going to protect your body from reactive molecules called free radicals. What the heck does any of that mean? Well, a free radical is a reactive molecule. Remember, reactive, we talked about like we put sodium in water, like if it's pure sodium, boom, it explodes. Something that's very reactive in the world of chemistry, we mean that it reacts with the environment, oxygen or hydrogen or water, whatever, right? It just reacts a lot. Inside your body, it could be, we also talk about like electrons being reactive. So if you take something and you get a new, let's say like a microplastic, right? It gets into your bloodstream. Your body is like, well, I'm going to try to dissolve that thing. That's not food and that's not part of us. So I'm going to kill it. Right? So your immune system hits it. It doesn't really succeed because we don't really have the tools to break down plastics. So your body's like, all right, well, I couldn't kill it, but I can store it forever in this fat cell over here. So it'll do that, right? Now, for the most part, that could be fine. If that little microplastic never causes you problems, and it just kind of stays a happy, healthy little molecule for the rest of its days, cool, no big deal. But if it's got an electron that is unpaired, it is going to try to fill its outer electron shell from something nearby. If that something nearby is you, it's going to maybe damage one of your cells. Now, it can be fine. Your body's got an immune system. It's really good at repairing those cells. But if what it steals from is your DNA in one of your cells, well, now you've got an awkward blueprint for how to make a cell. And so when that cell goes to divide, you have 2 awkward cells, and then you have 4 awkward cells, and then you have 8 awkward cells, It's gonna get messy pretty quick. And that's what a free radical is. It's a reactive molecule and it has an unpaired electron, and it will try to strip that electron from its outer environment. So how do you fix that? Well, luckily your immune system is really good at fixing that repair. And if they see a derpy, messed up DNA cell, for the most part, a lot of times your immune system takes care of it, but not always. Not always perfect, So we can take what we call an antioxidant. This is part of our diet, right? An antioxidant reduces oxidative stress. So if we look at like a reactive molecule, so we can get a good picture of this. Yeah, there we go, right? This is a healthy, happy little molecule over here, right? But this one over here is a free radical. It's like, hey, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Missing an electron. So it's like, hey, I want an electron, right? So it might steal it from something else. And now that could be really bad. But lucky for us, we can take antioxidants in our diet. Vitamin C is a really good example. Vitamins A, almost all the fat solubles, a couple minerals. And they have extra electrons. And they're basically willing to just donate them away. And that will then stabilize that free radical. It won't cause any more problems. And then you can just kind of like use that vitamin until you don't need it anymore and your body will get rid of it. And that's how antioxidants protect us from things like cancers.
Would the antioxidant replace that taken electron, or would it just stay like that?
It'll just stay like that. It's relatively stable as is. So this is where it gets really complicated. We get into like heavy duty like chemistry. But basically so the way chemistry works is you have energy levels. I've typed the word election so much lately that like when I keep trying to type electron, I keep mistyping. So it looks like this. So see this, you've got the shell 1 always has 2, shell 2 always has 8, shell 3 always has 16, I want to say. Why didn't it label them? 2, 8, 18, not 16, and 32. So these are like, so basically an antioxidant probably has like, and here's the thing, it goes both ways. Either we want to have the shell filled out, or if it's close to being empty, we want to have the shell empty. So what an antioxidant is, it's probably has like just the right number of electrons that it can give away. And then it's like, maybe it had like 2, and we'll say 1 in this level that should have 8. So rather than like stealing 7 electrons, it's willing to give 1 away. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is where nature gets like really OCD, guys. Like, I always picture everything to have like an anthropomorphic personality, and I'm like, man, nature is so OCD. Like, yeah, either that's got to be even or this is gonna have nothing. So yeah, that's what that is. So pausing this really quick, and we're gonna watch a quick little video. So vitamins ADEK, vitamins A, D, E, and K. First one to look at is vitamin A. These are our retinoids or carotenoids. Retinol, and retinoic acid are the sort of active forms inside the body. Really important for vision and function of like your eyes. So this is kind of a fun one, but we were talking about how like all of I foreshadowed this yesterday a little bit. It's like these are compounds that are similar to vitamin A themselves. So like what we do with vitamin A is we measure how much it acts like vitamin A rather than measuring how much vitamin A is in something. So weirdly, you'll see what is called like an RAE, retinol activity equivalent is what it is. So vitamin A is also an antioxidant, so we're a big fan of that. And we also want to, deficiency can lead to hyperkeratosis, which is like you'll get way too much keratin in your skin, dry skin. But yeah, you can see here, this is like how it interacts with your eye cells in particular. So yeah, like your eyes, vitamin A is very much directly linked to like the health of your vision. There's your RAE that I was talking about. And so, well, and you can see different versions. You can see beta carotene or, but they're all like, this is just basically telling you how they convert things to RAE. But certain retinoids are a little more effective than others. But then as a kid, I remember 2 things happened. I don't know what it was, but they must have happened close together because this is what led to my little kid brain learning things. So first, in school how they would come and do the eye tests. You'd have to do your eye test, and then they would do like the hearing test. They did all the stuff. They look for scoliosis. So we're in elementary school and all that happens. And our teacher is like, yeah, I mean, like you could have what is called an astigmatism. And I was like, we were like, what's an astigmatism? Little kids. And she's like, it's where one of your eyes gets stronger than the other. And so you need glasses to help the other one catch up. I'm like, oh, like, and so I learned that's what an astigmatism is. You have one eye that is stronger than the other one. And then my parents told me, they're like, you got to eat your carrots. They're really good for your eyes. And I was like, oh, okay. And when I was a kid, we loved, my mom would always make carrot coins. I liked those. I didn't like full-sized carrots. So my mom would have to chop them into carrot coins because this is the way that I like to eat them as a kid. So I was very OCD as a little child. And I would be like, Mom, you put an uneven number of carrot coins on my plate. I either need one more or I need one less. Because I would eat one at a time and I would chew it on one side of my mouth and I would chew the other one on the other side of my mouth so that I would keep my eyes even so that I would not develop an astigmatism. And I did that for way more years than I probably should have. Like I had that habit like way beyond little kid brain. So
Come on, you still do it, right?
yeah, I do not still do it, luckily. I would be honest with you. I have nothing to hide, but yeah, I definitely did that into like teen years until because you just once you establish like a habit, until something comes to like help you realize that you've been doing something a certain way, you just do it that way forever. Like
It's funny because my mom would always like I didn't refer to as broccoli. My mom would always call it uh what's it called? She would call them the little trees, los arbolitos, because they look like little,
little
yeah,
trees.
yeah. So broccolis, they look like
I
little,
love that.
like ¿quieres arbolitos? I was like, yeah, get arbolitos, and she would like douse a bunch of cheese on them because I'm a big fan of cheese. But she would always
That's
mix
how we
cheese
do
in
it
all of my
in
food, which is literally the only way she got me to eat zucchinis.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, like I hated vegetables, so that was my incentive to eat it with cheese.
Oh yeah, a lot of kids. Yeah.
Go figure why I'm allergic to dairy products now.
Listen, my wife is in the other room right now. Same problem. That's funny. Okay, so this is our first chance. We're at vitamin A here. This is our first chance to talk about phytochemicals. Now, phytochemicals are not vitamins, but they are antioxidants. So they're very similar to vitamins. So what is a phytochemical? It's even smaller, but they are little chemicals that give plants their color. So if we look up a list right now of phytochemicals, you will see there's a lot of them. That's a good one. I like this picture. So we'll see. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't have it listed. That's not the one I like. Do I like this one? Yeah. No, it's not. Oh, yeah. Where's the simple list that I like? There we go. All right, take a look right here. You can see we've got all these different little like phytochemicals, right? We've got this allyl sulfides, alliums is what this is called. We got organosulfides, so we got like turning it green. We got luteins. Beta carotene is turning things orange. Lycopene makes things red. So you can see there's actually a ton of different phytochemicals out there, and they're colors. They are giving us color in our food. So I love this chart here. It's like the 5 colors of phytochemicals. Like you get some reds, purples, greens, get some whites. Whites are actually quite good in your diet if they're coming from like a plant that's white, like, and yellow. Each of these are different phytochemicals. And while they are not necessarily vitamins in and of themselves, they do act as antioxidants and they help your immune system function a little bit better. And they can, again, act as, have anti-cancer benefits. So sources, fruits and vegetables with color. The one that we're talking about is carotenoids, which is orange. But lycopene is red. Like I said, alliums are white. Which is funny, but like that's good. Green tea, by the way, what is green? What is the phytochemical in green tea? Which one is that? Catechins. That's right, catechins. What'd you say, Shantice? Oh, nope. Okay. Oh, and then what's the big thing that's popular right now? Spirulina. You guys have seen this? Like an algae. And it's got yeah, but which phenolic? Okay. Really? That's funny to me. Okay, so the same thing in spinach. I thought it was like kind of a unique one. But yeah, spirulina is like really popular right now. There's blue spirulina. Blue one, but yeah, like all of these they're little phytochemicals, and they have antioxidant properties, which is why green tea is also associated with like anti-cancer benefits. So do you need it? Probably not. Not if you're getting plenty of like fruits and vegetables in your diet, but if you're eating like you know bland colored food, like this is actually why like one of the things that I'll often say to my clients when I first start talking about nutrition, before I ever want to get into the complex parts of nutrition, like eventually, sure, we can break down macros and stuff like that, but that's a hard habit change, so I don't really want to talk too much about the stuff that's hard in the beginning. So a lot of times I'll start with the stuff that's easy. And so one of the easy things I'll tell my clients to do, like here, small change, We'll talk about calories, we'll talk about nutrients and stuff later. Right now, I just want you to start getting more color onto your plate. Get some fruits, get some vegetables, make things look a little more colorful. Make that small habit change, and then show up to the gym on time for all your training sessions consistently. That's the first habit I always work on with people. I'm like, don't cancel on me, start showing up, show up on time, get used to that habit change. Then we can get into other stuff later. All right, vitamin D. Vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin. This is the one that helps regulate calcium absorption. Again, calcium, very, very important for bone health. Vitamin D is going to help us synthesize that in the form of what we call calcitriol. Deficiency can obviously lead to low calcium content in your blood, which can actually lead to like muscle weakness. It can affect bone growth, obviously. Too much of it can lead to hypercalcemia. Again, pretty rare, but you can get bone spurs and things like that from having too much vitamin D. Vitamin E, this is one that is very important for your skin and muscle and connective tissue. Anything that's got collagen in it, we need vitamin E. It is also a really strong antioxidant, but you'll find this again in fortified cereals. Vitamin E, you're going to find in anything. I will say this, like cereals is good, but plant and animal products, anything with a little bit of fat in it, vitamin E is usually hovering around fat. So a really good source is anything that is got a little bit of fat in it is usually a pretty good source. Nuts are a really good source. Avocados are a really good source. Olive oil, obviously, would be a really big one. So deficiency, maldigestion of lipids. So weirdly enough, this could actually result, if you don't have enough vitamin E, interestingly, it can help, it can make your cell membranes break down, but you actually will not digest lipids very effectively. So even though it's like you need fat to carry vitamin E into your bloodstream, you also need vitamin E in your body to make bile. And so without bile, your liver will not be able to help you break down fats, which means it'll just pass out, which will lead to further vitamin E deficiency. But again, pretty rare. Now, vitamin E and vitamin K are real buddy-buddy. They're kind of a pair. They're kind of like Feely and Killy. I just realized that is a Lord of the Rings reference that nobody's gonna get. They're like twins.
Nope.
Very close together. They're like they're like the Weasleys.
Mary Kate and Ashley.
See, I got that one.
There we go.
And I got that Mary Kate and Ashley one. See, it's okay. You don't need to run out of rings. It's fine.
Yeah, Luke and Leia. Too much of it can actually affect vitamin K's ability to clot. It'll bind to vitamin K, and we're about to talk about how vitamin K is important for blood clotting. Well, guess what? Too much vitamin E can result in too much vitamin K, lack of vitamin K, because they kind of bind together and then they both don't do their jobs. So that's not good. So what is vitamin K? Well, it's important for blood clotting. It's also important for the mineralization of bone. So vitamin K interacts with vitamin D, which interacts with calcium. So again, we're getting real interchangeable here. Deficiency can lead to hemorrhaging. You can bleed out like crazy. It can also lead to the malabsorption of fats. Again, like vitamin K can interact with vitamins E and D, which can then result in like your liver not making bile, and then you don't make fat, and then the fat doesn't get your vitamins in, and it all kind of speeds up. Green leafy vegetables are a really good source. Dark leafy greens in particular. So we talked about chard yesterday, it'd be a good one. Spinach, kale, collard greens, and get some stuff with some dark leaves on it. Broccoli is a good source. But then you can also find good amounts in like certain fruits. Is it stone fruits? Which fruits are high in vitamin K? Stone fruits? No, berries. Okay, that makes more sense, I guess. Darker colored fruits. That makes sense because it's the dark stuff. Yeah. that's again, memorizing like specifically where to get every one of these things, I think is actually like really takes some time and energy, and it doesn't help you in test taking. But that's how I memorize stuff. I'm like, is it the dark stuff or is it the bright stuff? So yeah, like a lot of vitamin K is like the darkly colored leafy stuff. And then we kind of come back to this idea of free radicals. The PowerPoint kind of circles back here for some reason. Free radical is a reactive molecule with unpaired electrons. It wants to steal that from somewhere. Could be your cell membrane. If it is, that's going to damage your cell. But an antioxidant, like a little extra vitamin C, has a little extra electron. So it's like, hey, here you go. You can have this little buddy. And that stabilizes it and acts as sort of a little shield for you. So, try to get plenty of whoop. Try to get plenty of those phytochemicals, which are antioxidants, and lots of vitamins A, D, E, and K, and vitamin C in your diet. And all of those are going to make it's going to keep you healthy.
Question. So since I'm trying to think about how to phrase it in a way where it makes sense. So since obviously a lot of people tend to take different supplements based on how they feel, what they need, depending on their diet.
Sure.
So obviously there's a lot of things that do cancel each other out.
Sure.
So obviously, so if, for example, if you would want to get a vitamin E and a vitamin K, would you be able to take those two together? Because I know there's specific ones that cancel each other. I know that magnesium and calcium tend to cancel each other out, which is why you're supposed to take them apart, right? I mean, I might be wrong.
I think if you're worried about that, like if you're getting that specific about nutrition, you are probably stepping outside of like how we talk about nutrition. You know what I mean? Like if you are really truly getting into that, you are looking at like the medical aspects of like deficiency. That's just not our area. So I'm not really qualified to answer like specific. What I would say is like based on what I know about stuff like this, is I would say if you are worried about like canceling your vitamins out by like, let's say you get too much vitamin E and then that causes it to bind to your vitamin K and now both of them aren't functioning very well.
That's a doctor
question.
Just
need to boost those naturally in your diet rather than taking it as a supplement. But again,
I mean, the reason why I ask because I know that there's usually like specific vitamins. For example, I think in my cabinet I have like one that's like calcium, magnesium, and zinc. And I know that magnesium and zinc are supposed to cancel each other out. But I know that's what I mean. Like, because I know some people do take the multivitamins specifically. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if my question is.
But why would they be the same?
It does make sense. I think the assumption with something like that is that like, 2 minus 2 equals 0. You know what I mean? But the reality is, when you're consuming something, it's probably more like you're getting anywhere from 158 to 612 of this. And then on the other one, you're getting anywhere from 143 to 918. And so then you consume them, and some of those numbers are canceling each other out. Some of them are not. You know what I mean? It's interacting very differently than just 2 minus 2.
Okay.
Kind of a weird example, but like,
No, but it makes because it goes back to that one we were talking about a little while ago about. Hold on. We're talking about something that cancels each other out. Oh, like the reference about it, a multivitamin having a lot of one particular vitamin excessively, and then your body just taking just what it needs and just discarding everything else. Right. So it'd be the same thing, kind of correlated.
Yeah, I mean, fat soluble vitamins, that's a little bit less common. Fat soluble vitamins, you get too many of them, they stay in your body a lot longer. Water soluble vitamins are the ones that we tend to pee out pretty easily. So if you're going to have toxicity, it's in a vitamin, which is, again, I cannot stress this enough, incredibly rare. But if you are going to get it, it's probably one of those
4. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, and then phytochemicals, do not worry about doing too much of this at all. I mean, don't worry about any of it, but especially phytochemicals, really good. Again, we're just trying to get lots of color in our diet, guys. Like, and there they are, right? Alliums, anthocyanins. Alliums are white, anthocyanins are blue, carotenoids are yellow and orange, catechins are green, flavonoids. I do not remember what color that one is. Lycopenes are reds, and then phenolics compounds are all kinds of like berry colored purple, I guess. We already have purple, but yeah, we're just trying to get lots and lots. So if you want to get more phytochemicals in your diet, which we all do, everybody in the world, green tea is a good option. Try to get and then try to get as much color in your meal as possible. You can see even like tomato pastes and things like that. Sounds kind of crazy because it's like I wouldn't consider like tomato paste to be like a health food, but I would consider it to be a massive amount of lycopene. So while it may not be like something I'm consuming for like crazy massive health, at least I know I'm getting some color in my diet, you know? Probably not going to consider it a vegetable serving every time, you know? Because it's like, okay, well, the color's still there. So the phytochemicals are still there. Maybe I boil a lot of like the water soluble vitamins that were there out. But like, this is where I laugh. Look, we go back. I talked about this. We talked about Michelle Obama. She wanted to redo like kids' school lunches. Under her watch, one thing that did change was that pizza got classified as a vegetable, which everyone just filleted her for. Like, which I think is really like, I get it. Like, it is ridiculous as a sentence to say that pizza is a vegetable in a kid's school lunch. You know what I mean? But like, she didn't directly go through food by food. She just put people in charge, And to be fair, there is gonna be like a pea in like tomato sauce.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
It's a stretch for sure, but like at least we can both understand where this kind of misguided but thing came from.
I mean, I'm totally for it though. I mean, if you think about it, it does have a little bit of everything. It's the same thing when my mom tries to justify and I like eating cake for breakfast, like randomly. She's like, it has eggs, it has flour. She was like,
It's
it
an
has
old Bill Cosby joke, not to bring up
horrible. And I'm just looking at her, I'm like,
Dr.
woman,
Huxtable,
if
but
that would have been me eating breakfast as cake, you probably would have smacked the juice out of me because that's not fun.
yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, here's the thing. I agree with you. There are vegetables in these things. What I disagree with is calling it a health food. That's there we are. But yeah, that used to be one of my favorite Bill Cosby jokes. Where he was like, "Yeah, we're talking about cake for breakfast." Um, ugh. All right,
Isn't it funny now we hear Bill Cosby and we cringe. We used
man,
to
it
love
makes me
him.
so sad. It's like rest. In my brain is like, oh, rest in peace. The version of Bill Cosby that I had, like
Exactly.
that guy is gone. The mythical version. Dr. Huxtable. All right. Minerals moves a little quicker. But minerals very different than vitamins. These are actually going to be inorganic, meaning they don't have carbon. They are their own metals. And these are obviously essential for body functions. They are part of our body. They're structural. And one of the most important things is that some of them act as electrolytes. What the heck is an electrolyte? It's a positively or negatively charged something. We call it an ion. But the three that we mostly talk about, sodium, potassium, and chloride. So sodium chloride, you put those two together. So sodium, no, just chemical Na, please. Chemical Na, sodium. Chemical Cl, chloride. Little white crystals, please. I guess it's mostly a gas, but yeah, there we go. But whatever you do, NaCl. Aha, sodium chloride, aka table salt. So salt is a very good source of electrolytes. Now, so is potassium, right? And by the way, we always talk about bananas with potassium. Bananas aren't even that high in potassium. I mean, they are, but like they just again, we go back to like marketing. We talked about milk yesterday, and it's like, is milk actually a good source of calcium? I was like, yeah, kinda. But like bananas, you get more potassium out of broccoli than you do out of bananas. But bananas are a lot more popular. And I'm certainly not, I'm not anti big banana, big pharma. No, I love bananas, but it is funny to me that like what we do marketing. But also my favorite example as well. I saw this sticker once, and then I made fun of it, and then I Googled it once and I found it again. Uh, sticker. Man.
So I'd
Look
be
at
just
this.
as
I'm fat free. Yeah, of course you're fat free. You're a banana.
So I'd be just as good to eat a bunch of not a bunch, but eat some broccoli before in the morning before I go for my run
Yeah,
as a banana.
absolutely you would. I will say though, broccoli is low in sugar, whereas if you want the energy from sugar, bananas.
Okay, so okay,
So that's probably where a lot of the sports popularity came from, which is good.
right,
So,
right,
hey, cool argument, which is why Gatorade, right? Gatorade is sodium and potassium and
and
chloride
sugar.
and lots of sugar. So again, like I'm not anti Gatorade, as long as you're not sitting on the couch. So they are inorganic. They don't have carbon. They have no calories because you're not gonna be able to break them down for energy. Again, no carbon bonds. You need them in very small amounts. And they pretty much remain unaltered. They are just their own little thing. That's why we watched that little video the other day. She took the super neodymium magnet, pulled all the iron little shavings out. Yep, it's just little shavings of minerals in our food. I always picture it like, do you guys know what a rasp is? Uh, so I have like a few rasps in my garage, and they're used for sharpening things or like shaving wood if you have to. But I always picture like if you're at like an Italian restaurant, you're like, I need more iron in my diet. And they come over with like a rasp and a piece of metal, and it's like doing the Parmesan cheese. It's like, thank you very much. But yeah, that's kind of how we put minerals into food sometimes, if it's fortified or enriched. So we have got major and trace. Now, a minute ago, we had a chemical difference between fat soluble and water soluble, right? One was carried in water, one was carried in fat, dissolved in water, one was dissolved in fat, right? Minerals work differently. All minerals, every one of them are different from one another, but we do love putting stuff into two categories here. So we have major minerals and we have trace minerals. Are all the major ones similar in their ways and all the trace ones are similar and they like share a characteristic? No, they're all totally different from one another. Major just means you need them in 100 milligrams or more a day. Trace, you need 100 milligrams or less a day. That's our magical categorization. So, there it is. So major minerals: calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, chloride, sodium, and sulfur. So all three of our electrolytes are going to be major minerals. Also calcium. We have a lot of bone in our bodies. Phosphorus. By the way, calcium. Bone isn't even just calcium. It's actually calcium and phosphorus. It's calcium phosphate. So again, let's look at calcium. Ta-da! Also a metal. Look at phosphorus. Ta-da! Also a rock. Phosphorus, by the way, is what's in fireworks. But you look at calcium phosphate. Ta-da! Bone. So yeah, it's weird when minerals bind together, but chemistry. So calcium, really essential for bone health, helps with blood clotting. We talked about how it interacts with vitamin K. Nerve transmission and muscle contraction. Remember, calcium is what actually moves troponin and tropomyosin out of the way so that actin can pull, so myosin can pull on the actin strand. So calcium is actually what moves this. You need calcium for muscle contractions. If you were to take like liquid calcium ions and just like inject them into your arm, your muscle would like basically start contracting until eventually you can flush that all out. It's one of the things they test for if you ever have like muscle cramps. They'll go in and they'll test your blood calcium levels. Or if you ever get bit by like a venomous animal, venomous, not poisonous. Yeah, poisonous animal. Venomous animal? Crap. I can't remember the difference. If you ever get the one that interrupts the nervous system's ability to move calcium, I think that's venom because poison would just whatever. Anyway, we're not doing this. But yeah, if you ever get bit by like an animal and then like, what its toxin, there we go, does inside is like it prevents calcium's ability to move. That's like one of the reasons why it can cause like cramping or, loss of muscle control. And then too much calcium intake can actually, too much calcium, yeah, you're leaving like excess mineralization in the body. It can lead to kidney stones, it can lead to gallstones, right? And basically that's what happens when your body's like trying to filter out extra minerals so that normally you just pee them out, but maybe they get stuck, you know? Too much of them build up and eventually you got a whole, full-size kidney stone there. Hypercalcemia results in that. Hypocalcemia can be low blood calcium, and that can interrupt your ability to, that can be a reason for cramping. Osteoporosis also associated with inadequate calcium. So what are good sources? Sure, dairy products. They are, don't get me wrong. Like you make milk as a biological animal, guess what? You're gonna excrete some calcium into there. But there's also really good sources like green leafy vegetables. I'm gonna say this: green leafy vegetables, they're gonna be on every one of these moving forward. Talking about minerals, if it's something that grew in the ground, which is where the world keeps its minerals, it's getting into our food. So if it grew in the ground, pretty good source, Now it says orange juices. That's actually due to fortification. Same thing with bread. Bread and orange juice, they usually will dump some calcium in there to make it a little bit better. Like Wonder Bread. You'll see like Wonder Bread is fortified with calcium or rich. I guess being rich. There's a little bit of calcium in grain. Tofu is actually a really good source as well. Getting lots of it there. Phosphorus. Phosphorus is a component of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, right? So that's important. Phosphorus is also one of the things that helps us make up our cell membrane. So organophosphates are part of our omega-3s and 6s. And they are helping with calcium phosphate, so found in our bones, that is important, right? So without it, we get bone problems, we get muscle weakness problems because of ATP, right? Where the heck, how do we make sure we're getting enough phosphate? Everybody's got plenty of phosphate. Phosphorus is super easy to come by. Meat, any animal product, if you're eating an animal's body, guess what? It's made up of cells. If it's got cells, it's got phosphorus in it. It's the cell membrane, right? But anything that also has a little bit of fat in it. So nuts, legumes, even cereals, if it's got a little bit in there, good sources, When I say cereals, we're talking about the ones that have like a little bit of fat content, like nuts and stuff in them. So yeah, look, bunch of good sources there. Yeah, if it's something with any fat in it, it's got plenty of phosphorus. Now, magnesium, this is one that we sometimes struggle with. This is one that, yeah, talking about deficiency, Yasmin, you brought it up. Trish, I think you brought it up a couple days ago. Magnesium is a common one for deficiency. It's helpful for enzyme function. Magnesium kind of assists in that whole metabolic process of like regulating enzymes. Helps with bone strength. It helps with calcium and vitamin D's ability to do their job. Magnesium is like a really good bro. Like it's just like always when it's like, hey, I'm moving this weekend. Yeah, I'll help. Like, hey, I need a ride to the airport. Magnesium's got you. Like that's it. Really, it doesn't do much on its own, but it's like important for like doing a lot of other, like assisting in other things. So cardiovascular deficiency oftentimes leads to your body kind of slowing down, especially like muscular and neurologically. So you'll feel like loss of appetite, nausea, weakness, cramps, irritability, confusion in really low levels. But again, this one should be one that we get in our diet pretty easily. But the problem is that magnesium is very easily lost in food. So it's found in whole grains, leafy vegetables. Again, leafy vegetables are going to be in everything. It's found in meat. It's found in seafood. And it is found in water. But if you have like a water softener, like a filter, sometimes that can result in lower magnesium levels. Magnesium is floating around water pretty easily there. However, it is easy because it does flow in water so easily to lose it. You overcook a food, you overboil a food, and things like that that can actually cause you to lose some of that. The magnesium can kind of get carried away in those processes, which is why we have like so much deficiency. Highly processed foods, deep fried and things like that. Well, yeah, we lose a lot of that content. If you're cooking at home regularly, I doubt you have to worry about magnesium content. Sodium, we really don't have to worry about too little of this. Usually we got to worry about too much of this because sodium is really good at keeping germs away. Germs just can't live when they get super dehydrated. This is actually why, hey guys, Thanksgiving is coming up. Brine your turkeys. it will give you a much crispier skin because it will take all the moisture out of it because that's what sodium does. This is why you should not drink salt water. So high intake can lead to calcium and sodium actually are also very buddy-buddy. So too much sodium can actually pull calcium out of your blood. Again, kidney stones, we talked about that already. But it's really important for blood pressure. It's really important for nerve impulses, glucose absorption. It's an electrolyte. It does so much. So like, while I am like, look, we may have a little bit too much access to sodium. You like a lot of canned foods that need to sit on a shelf for a decade, like, great. Sodium will totally, I'm really glad we learned how to like preserve food. It's amazing. I remember learning about this. The town I'm from is the town where Lewis and Clark like ended their journey to find the West Coast. So like that's where I'm from. So their camp is like a park you can visit and take tours, and it's actually burned down 3 times. So there's none of the original thing that's left, unfortunately. But they have created a replica, and they do reenactments and stuff. And so you go in there and you see like how they used to preserve like a deer, and they would basically just dump salt all over it. They would go to the river, and they would like, not the river, they would go to the ocean, and they would boil out all the salt, and they would take the salt and they would just cover deer meat with it. And they could keep it there for months, like it's awesome. Like I'm glad we know how to do that. But yeah, we have a lot of canned foods in America. And so we tend to get a lot of it. That being said, if you exercise regularly, you sweat a lot, you're going to be losing a lot of these minerals pretty regularly because, again, they get swept up in water very, very easily. One more reason to not overcook or boil your food or overboil your foods. But you can reintroduce some of those minerals, table salt in particular, soy sauce, condiments, table salt, all good examples. Fluoride found with salt. Now, this is an interesting one. This is how we form hydrochloric acid, which is what your stomach acid is. So we make stomach acid thanks to chloride. Here's the thing. You know what I'm going to reference here. Your stomach is part of your immune system. It sounds weird. You think of immune system, you go to, like, if you're me, you go to white blood cells. But like your nose hairs, your skin itself, all of that is like immune. There's a difference between, and I am blanking as I'm trying to say this, innate immune system versus, what's the other one? Adaptive. Damn it. That's high school stuff. Your innate immune system, that's like there to like block stuff physically. And then your adaptive immune system, yeah, that's like your red blood cells, your white cells, things like that. So here's the thing. Your stomach acid is there to be like, oh, is that a virus? Oh, like dissolved, is that bacteria? Dead. Doesn't always work. Sometimes it lives, which is why sometimes you end up with food poisoning. But for the most part, like hydrochloric acid's really good at killing harmful bacteria. Now, that being said, you should not be injecting cleaner or drinking it the way that certain unnamed political figures may recommend. That is all I'll say about that. Because maybe those people are dumb. Okay, now I'm done. So yeah, chloride. It is actually an essential mineral. It is actually important, but you will get it from anything where you are eating a salt. So salt, sodium, potassium, you're getting plenty of chloride there. Potassium, that's the next one. Potassium, really important for regulating blood pressure because, again, acting as an electrolyte to help you either dilate or constrict blood vessels. Nerve impulse contraction, muscle contraction, all the electrolyte jobs. That's what potassium is for. It does a couple other things, but for the most part, we're talking about it as an electrolyte. Good sources, potatoes. Potatoes are actually the best source, believe it or not. So, Trisha, yellow potatoes, golden potatoes, I think are the highest actually. Yep. Oh no, baked potatoes. Oh, okay. So russets. Russets are probably actually the highest source of potassium. Yogurt, tomato juice, clams. You could do clams before a run. That'd be a good source of sodium. And then there's banana. By the way, it is close though. I mean, like 480, it's only a 100 milligram difference. It's 20% less. That's not crazy. So bananas are still a very good source. Sulfur. Here's a fun one. Yeah, um, this yellow mineral here, this little yellow crystal, this yellow rock. Crazy that that is an essential mineral that we have to consume. Here's the thing. We know that it's important for the growth of tissues. You are constantly getting sulfur in the body. There's no way to avoid it. It's in our water. It's in anything that has an amino acid. Um, Part of what makes an amino is that it has like some sulfur in it. So there's no way you're not getting it. We know it's essential, totally part of us, but we have no RDA, EAR, or AI. We do not know how much of it is too much. We don't know how much of it is too little. We don't really know how much the recommended amount is because there's no way to take like a person and get them to not have it, and then take another person and like give them just straight up too much of it without just like, poisoning them. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. You're getting plenty of it. It's found in anything that has water in it. This is why at one point, like you look at like Flint, Michigan, they could like there was like too much like sulfur in their water. And you would watch these like videos that people would post where they could take like a lighter and they would turn their tap on and they could like light their water on fire. That's sulfur.
Every
So
time I hear about sulfur, it reminds me of the show Supernatural, when
yeah,
like demons get summoned.
demons. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think that's like I don't think that's just a them thing. I think the whole sulfur thing has been like I don't know where the whole demon sulfur thing came from, but yeah, that's fire and brimstone smells like sulfur. All right, iron, zinc, chromium, fluoride, copper, manganese, iodine, selenium, and my favorite to say, molybdenum. These are all your trace minerals. So iron, actually a trace mineral. You don't need much of it. It's crazy important, but it works in small amounts. This is going to be important for the production of hemoglobin and myoglobin. You can see that's going to allow transportation of oxygen and nutrients into and out of the bloodstream. So if you have iron deficiency, you are not going to do what is called erythropoiesis very effectively. That's a big fancy way of saying making red blood cells. Okay. Erythrocytes, that's the medical term or the biological term for a red blood cell. And then poiesis is, I think it just means production. But yeah, erythropoiesis is the production of red blood cells. So you could be anemic without enough iron in your diet. So low dietary intake could result in iron deficiency. That's mostly going to be common in women due to like menstruation. Men can sometimes be deficient, but it's a little bit more rare. So it's just important to make sure that you are getting plenty of iron in your diet regularly. Luckily, it's pretty easy to get. I mean, all you have to do is get like something that grew in the ground. So again, soy is a great source. But like fruits, whole grains, and legumes in particular are really terrific. But then also like, yeah, there are heme irons going to be found in like protein sources, beef, poultry, and fish. And now we got freaking plant-based heme, which is what is so amazing about, I think it's Impossible has the patent. That's what's so amazing about like Impossible Burgers, or maybe it was the other one. It's Impossible Burger and shoot, what's the other one? Ah! There's two really good like vegan burger types out there.
I can't think of the name
Beyond,
of it, but they have it at Ralph's.
yeah,
It's
Beyond
Impossible
Burger.
or oh my God. Yeah, I
Beyond.
can't.
Yeah, these two right here. So yeah, they're good. And I've had them both. They're not bad. But that was the amazing thing is they figured out how to produce like heme iron from plants. One of them has the patent on it, which is why Warren Buffett is like a big investor, was like, oh my God, like invested a ton of money into their company because he was like, that's going to be huge. And he was right. They've done really well financially. So yeah, that's what's kind of cool about iron. Um, And then it is also important for like some of your energy production enzymes. Iron does interact with a couple of your B vitamins. Too much of it can cause what I said earlier, hemochromatosis, which is like too much iron accumulating in your liver, and eventually your body is like, all right, we need less blood cells, and so we'll actually start pushing them through your GI tract, which is obviously very frightening for some people. So if your stool looks black, that is probably iron, and then eventually if it looks red and black, that is actually blood coming out. Too much iron, probably. Too much iron. Here's our really good sources out there. I don't know if you guys, hopefully you can read those in those little printouts I gave you. If you guys want those lists separately, I can remind me on Tuesday, and I can maybe like assemble them together and print those sources for you if they're too small to read.
They are pretty small.
Yeah, I figured as much. I've only done it a couple times. I wish that I had saved. All I have to do is just take the PowerPoint slide by itself and then just print them individually. So it's really easy for me to do, but I did not save it the one time someone asked for it. So, but if you remind me on Tuesday, I'll probably just take a minute and do that with you guys. Zinc. Zinc is my favorite. Zinc is cool just because it's important for your immune system. It does hormone production, does brain function, does some other stuff. It's really, really cool. But what I like about it is that zinc, the way it is part of your immune system, it doesn't destroy viruses or anything. That's your killer T cells do that. But it does mark viruses for destruction. And it does it by literally your little tiny white immune cells. They'll make a little arm of like zinc, like a little metal arm, and they go, yeah, and they'll stab like a virus. And then that tells the rest of your immune system to come along and like eat that thing. And so it's literally like the T-1000 metal arm from Terminator. Or Terminator 2. Is it T-1000? Oh, I wrote 1000. T-1000. There we go. This guy. I just think that's very cool. So yeah, zinc is kind of fun. Any animal product's going to have lots of zinc in it, and anything that grew in the ground. Again, we're seeing legumes, we're seeing dark leafy greens. Chromium, this is a fun one. Chromium's kind of cool. This is important for the production of insulin. So weirdly enough, if you have a chromium deficiency, you could have type 1 diabetes symptomatically. It's also part of your immune system as well. And it is literally chrome, like, the stuff they put on cars. We need little amounts of that. Don't go licking a hubcap or anything. So with a deficiency, it can lead to like high glucose, excessively high blood sugar. And it can alter your carbon protein metabolism. This is an interesting. This one's found in like a lot of like, I don't know, the way I picture it in my head is like wet stuff. But like mushrooms, they got a little moisture in them, prunes. Again, you're gonna find it in like broccoli and things like that. But another really good source is dark chocolate in particular. The places that grow dark chocolate the most effectively, there's a lot of chromium left, particularly in the dark stuff. It's one of the reasons why it tastes different than milk chocolate. That and the less milk and sugar. And then some beers, which is really funny. They put a lot of chromium in non-alcoholic beers. And I knew a kid in high school, Ross McDougall, and he and his family were all vegan, but he also had a chromium deficiency. And by the way, they were also both of them, both the McDougall brothers were the two fastest kids in our school. They were the whole reason we went to state every year in cross country. I was on a team with both of them, and never once have I, I probably still have not run as fast as them. They were freaking speedy kids. And they are both responsible for how I got into ultimate frisbee. They were the two that really, really kind of sucked me into that sport. But anyway, Ross had a chromium deficiency, and so he would like flex on kids at parties where he would like bring, like I didn't go to like a lot of the drinking parties. I went to the, just regular parties. Like we weren't doing anything wrong. We were playing ping pong and watching and playing video games. But Ross would bring like an O'Doul's, like non-out, because his parents would like give it to him, and it had like a ton of chromium in it. And he would like flex on kids by like drinking non-alcoholic beer at these parties. So that's the nerdy group I hung out with. So yeah, that's a fun one. Fluoride is an interesting one. Fluoride is actually going to help you prevent dental caries. It's a fancy word for cavities. So it's also important for the mineralization of bone and teeth. It also helps prevent tendonitis, weirdly enough. Fluoride is, we usually talk about teeth stuff, but it is actually really important for tendon strength as well. It's one of the things that like allows a tendon to insert onto bone and like get a good grip on it. Because it's like you're going from soft tissue to hard tissue. And so like fluoride actually kind of bridges that gap between the two. So you can actually have compromised bone and teeth integrity without enough fluoride in it, but it is actually something that is not found in our food very effectively, which is why almost every state adds fluoride to their water in order to make sure that like we are all getting enough. Uh, I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
there is a current uh, politician who is a big fan of trying to get that out of our foods, out of our water source. Which
Would there be ever a point where you could have too much fluoride?
is there a situation where you can have too much?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Because I know that usually dentists are the ones that tend to recommend, especially for kids, sometimes actual fluoride,
Mhm.
since I guess they're not getting it enough. I guess I I don't know why, to be honest.
Probably because they're not drinking enough
Now,
water.
I mentioned that when we brought this up the other day,
Yeah.
that I worked for someone that was totally against fluoride, and she said it was a poison.
Personally, I do not believe so. I'm trying really hard to not get like really opinionated about. I do not want to be super opinionated on this, but like, let's see here. Just incognito. Fluoride, pros and cons. Let's just really simply, this is obviously not real research. We are literally just going to take 10 seconds here. There is some evidence. There have been a few times where people have looked at some of the things. Certain fluoride, like in really, really high levels, has been shown to cause like neurological problems. Um, oh, see, actually, I'm on a purely pro. Hold on. Sometimes people will have allergies to it. That is something that happens. Um, and you can get what is called fluorosis. Which is where you can actually get a little bit too much deposit of fluoride, which can cause like massive like tartar buildup, which can actually damage your teeth. Um, it ends up like making like kind of compromised teeth. So there are some drawbacks. It is possible. It is extremely rare.
The
And
same person
what's that?
literally cried, the same woman literally cried the first time the doctor prescribed her young son antibiotics.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, look, I actually don't love how often, like, I am really sympathetic to the whole antibiotic conversation. I hate antibiotic soap, personally. I don't think we should be allowed to have antibiotic soap in regular stores. If I really could have my way, because most people don't need it. You don't need antibiotic soap to kill germs. You're not killing germs when you wash your hands. You're just carrying them off your person, which is just as effective in like 99% of cases. So the more often we're using like antibiotics, it causes that, like, how it always says like 99.9% of germs, that
Right.
0.1% that survives adapts and becomes like a superbug. And so like we have had a problem in the US in particular, in the last like couple decades of over prescribing. It's like every time there's a problem, we're like, give me antibiotics. And so like the next time they need it, the bacteria has adapted to it. And now that antibiotic doesn't work anymore. And eventually we're gonna end up with super bacteria that like doesn't respond to antibiotics. And that sucks for the person who, is taking it for the very first time. So I'm with her in some ways, but antibiotics are amazing.
And there's already not viruses, but there's already bacteria that is like prone against antibiotics as it is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And like that's insane to me.
Luckily, here's the thing, that has been happening since the very first time we've ever used antibiotics. But we are smart enough to be able to make new antibacterial strains. We just need to make sure we are not making superbugs faster than we can keep making superbug medicine. So it's a balance. But yeah, guys, don't be afraid of fluoride, please. Next one is copper. Copper's fun. Copper actually helps your body interact with iron a little bit more effectively, and oxygen a little bit more effectively. So this is also part of like preventing anemia. So we like copper. Deficiency can lead to anemia. I will say it's a little easier to get copper in sometimes. It is found in pretty much anything with chocolate. One thing, like chocolate just has a lot of copper in it. But then it's also found in like a lot of grains. So, two things in the American diet that we do not lack.
Wait, what type of? You need to be a little bit more specific. Are we talking about like milk chocolate or like dark chocolate or like
dark chocolate will have more, but if it's chocolate, it's got some copper in there. It's part of what makes chocolate chocolate. Like it's what has that like kind of flavor. Like if you ever wondered why like dark chocolate tastes a little more bitter, number one, they're not adding as much sugar, which doesn't cover up the complex flavors of chocolate. But like it tastes kind of minerally, like, yeah. Oh, wine. Wine's actually a really good source of copper too. Not on our list here, but it is actually a really good source. If you ever want, like, I was never a big wine guy, and I'm still not. But I will say I had like a cool experience where someone was like, try this with this. And like when you eat the two together, it's like this already had a lot of copper in it. So then you're kind of dead into this. Remember we were talking about sugar yesterday? Like you eat something sweet, it's like something else can't taste as sweet, So it's like you ate something with mineral in it, and then you like drink, and like all you can taste is like this other stuff. And then like the opposite was true. They're like, here, eat this really sweet thing. And then like I remember drinking like a glass of wine, and it tasted like licking an iron bar. And I was like, whoa, and while that was gross, it was really cool, But yeah, no, yeah, there's very good source of copper. You're not going to be copper deficient. It's also found in water, by the way. Manganese is another one. So this one's really good for metabolism. It actually helps us with fat synthesis, by the way. So manganese interacts with our body in regards to breaking down carbohydrates, but also like the production of triglycerides. So if you're converting excessive fat into triglycerides, manganese is going to assist with that. That might make it sound like you're like, well, then I'll just eat less manganese. Not a good choice because that can also lead to like bone abnormalities and stuff. But anything that's a grain and anything that grew in the ground and anything in water. So again, manganese, you're going to find it. Pineapple's, I guess, the best source. I didn't even know that. But cereal, which is a grain. Oatmeal comes from a grain, Iodine, this one's really important for hormone production. So weirdly enough, if you have like a slow thyroid, it could be, possibly, it could be that you have low iodine levels, which is an interesting one. So you'll sometimes see people will develop what's called a goiter, where their thyroid's trying to spit out thyroid hormone. And so it actually ends up enlarging, like hypertrophy, like a muscle almost. That deficiency can lead to like weight gain. It can lead to like you feeling cold all the time, and just overall decreased body temperature because your body is basically just not metabolizing. And part of your body temperature, remember I said you break ATP off, your body captures most of that energy. Some of it escapes, which is why you heat up when you do things that are, burning lots of energy. So if you are not breaking molecules because you're not producing molecules very effectively because your metabolism is very slow because your thyroid's not regulating the speed at which your cells grow and do stuff, Yeah, that can be a deficiency. So they'll look at that sometimes, and then they'll say, "All right, you have too little." So iodized salt would be a good source, but also seafood. Like, take a look here. Cod, you can see like shrimp, you know, fish. It's in the ocean. There's lots of iodine, in the ocean and rivers. Molybdenum. This is another really fun one. Deficiency. I don't know. We know it's essential. It's part of like our enzyme production, but again, we haven't really ever seen somebody actually have like molybdenum deficiency, because it's found in like everything. It's found in animal products. It's found in grains. Everything that is part of someone's diet. Selenium, that's a fun one. That's in your hair, actually. Selenium is the active ingredient in Head and Shoulders. And so that is also really important for the production of enzymes and also really important for the production of like a fetus. So again, selenium is something you will generally see in prenatal vitamins, but it's found in pretty much any animal product. So selenium deficiency is pretty rare, but we'll see it sometimes in vegetarian, vegan, you know. But even then, there's in Brazil nuts are super high. Actually, I will say Brazil nuts. Look at this. This is really fun. There's not like this is the serving size here, right? Look at this number here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 10, 10, 11, 18, 29. That's a big jump there. 60, 544. What a huge freaking jump. There's a whole episode of the show House, which has like rare medical stuff, and it's like a mystery. He's trying to figure out what made somebody sick. And it's this guy who has like way too much selenium in, and he was basically eating what it was he was eating like tons of Brazil nuts every day. But they couldn't figure it out because they had asked him, like the whole crux of the episode is like he's like, I asked you where he was like stationed and what he was eating every day. And it was like, yeah, he was in Colombia. And he's like, yeah, that's where they or no, he was like, he was in Brazil. He's like, Brazil, Colombia, it's the same region, it's the same, all this and that. And he's like, but it's not the same language. You wouldn't call Brazil nuts in Brazil. You would just call them nuts. And so the whole thing is like he's really mad at this guy for describing it incorrectly because he had, selenium poisoning. Um, so there's a fun fun example of how that could happen. Um, but yeah, why you don't want to do too many Brazil nuts at one time. It is really dangerous, by the way. Like that is a real sickness. But they're fine to have a little bit of. So other trace minerals, here are some other ones that you are constantly eating without realizing it, but they are not what we would call an essential mineral. They're not helping your health. In fact, they could maybe hurt you. Arsenic is a good one. Yeah, that is something that you're going to find in your water source all the time. Boron, the fifth element, that is going to be found in water and I think in a lot of grains. Nickel, that is commonly found everywhere. It's not essential for anything, but you could have an allergy to any of these. My wife has a nickel allergy, which is why I like certain vegetables which have high nickel content, like legumes or leafy greens, really mess with her. And they make her get all itchy and she can't sleep. She feels really bad. Silicon, you're going to get that in water. Vanadium, you're going to get that in animal products. So really good sources of these are all over. And yeah, you're eating them all the time, but no, they are not essential nutrients. They're not doing anything in your body. For the most part, they're also probably not hurting you unless you get to super high levels. Gold and silver totally belong on that list, by the way. We're just not eating them all the time. But the guy in the video, right, he was drinking silver all the time. Silver's amazing. It totally has antibacterial. Brass, we talked about that. Zinc on like doorknobs. Right? Brass is, what is brass? It's copper and tin, I think. Is that right? Hold on. What's brass? Copper and zinc. Okay, that makes sense. So zinc, uh, antibacterial properties. That's why doorknobs are made out of it. So, but yeah, Lindsay is allergic to nickel. So like, she can't wear certain, she doesn't wear a lot of jewelry because a lot of it is made from nickel because it's a cheap metal to produce. Buttons on shirts, things like that. Um, all right, questions, comments, concerns about vitamins and minerals, anything like that? Come on
Well, I
now.
don't have them all memorized or anything, but
Sure. Okay, now let's do water. Now we actually have a ton of slides left for water. I warned you about this. I'm going to complain about it. They just say the same thing 50 times in this PowerPoint. There's like 10 things to say, and then they made 40 slides out of saying the same thing 10 times.
quickly.
So if it seems like I'm moving quickly, it's because I'm annoyed at this PowerPoint. I promise I will give you the most important parts though. So, because water is, here's the thing, it's the most essential nutrient. Like, just because I hate this part of the slide doesn't mean I don't think water is important. It is the most important. So it's 55 to 60% of your body weight is water. Now we are going to divide water in the human body into two different divisions. Not that it's different from itself, but it lives in two different places. So we've got intracellular water, which is water inside your cells, and we've got extracellular water, which is water outside of your cells. So again, if we look at that phospholipid bilayer that we talked about yesterday, where it's like, your body uses fats to like arrange itself and keep water in and keep water out. Yeah, in that's intracellular, out that's extracellular. So we need that. We need water outside of our cells to move stuff around. We need water inside of our cells to move stuff around. We were born in water, so we need to like have a consistent amount of water carried around with us all the time. It's a really kind of good way to think about it. Like we used to all be fish, like, and then we started walking on land, but we needed to bring our home with us. We just keep it inside. So yeah, that is why water is crazy important to us. It does all of our metabolic it allows all of the metabolism stuff to happen. So factors that affect your intracellular water and your extracellular water, you could have a lot of like particles outside, right? And again, this goes back to, we talked about this briefly, I think. Maybe I was doing solo time with Lisa, but if you had a semi-permeable membrane, okay, so here's a little membrane with some holes in it, right? And then and this is a jar, right? So this is an overall big jar, but I divided that jar into two different like sections, okay? So here's my jar, right? And I put a little membrane in there between the two, like a little filter, okay? Now on this side, let's say, shoot, you know what? Hold on, I'm gonna remake my little wall here. So I'm gonna divide this little wall down, okay? This is my semi-permeable wall, okay? Now, on this side of the jar, we have this much salt water. And on this side of the jar, we have this much fresh water. Now, right now, the amount of actual water in both sides is equal. Doesn't seem equal. Seems like this side is full of way more water, right? But again, salt particles are taking up some of that space. So no, there is actually the same amount of water in both these examples. So what would happen if I filled one side with salt water like this, and I filled one side with fresh water to the same level? And I've got this little semi-permeable membrane. I've got little holes in this membrane here. Well, what would happen, wait, hold on. What would happen is that water, oh, what happened? Good Lord, come on now. Water from over here would actually move over to the other side. So again, it looks like these water levels are neutral, like they're the same, but this is salt water over here. So what's going to actually happen is because there are so many like salt particles in here, there's just so many of those taking up space that what will happen is nature will actually naturally move water from over here over to here. So then it'll end up looking kind of like this. And it'll kind of fill this up with as much fresh water as it kind of can, raising those levels. And that will actually kind of erase
Why
water.
wouldn't it just level out?
What's that?
I just curious, why is it only traveling to the side, that one side, not leveling out?
Because nature does not like the fact that there's a bunch of particles taking up space. It wants the concentration to be equal on both sides. So
Oh,
it
okay.
might actually move some from over here, to, like some of those particles over here to over here, but it's easier to move water than it is to move particles.
Right. So actually, in reality, it has evened out the amount of water.
Yeah, it would
It
actually
just
like
looks higher still. Okay.
yeah. So and remember, this is like a semi-permanent. So what would actually happen? It wouldn't just like probably raise it. Like gravity is a strong enough force that it would probably prevent it, and it would probably kind of level on both sides. But a better example of like a semi-permeable membrane, you probably did this in like high school actually. But you'll take like salt water and you'll take potatoes and you'll take potato slices, and you'll have different concentrations of salt. Let's see if I can find a picture. Every science teacher does this. Osmosis and potato and salt water experiment. So what they'll do is you'll take like potatoes have like, they're very porous, right? So what you'll do is you'll take a bunch of different potato slices and you'll have 3 different jars of water. And you'll put no salt water in one, you'll put some salt water in the other, and then you'll put like a lot of salt in the third one. And then you'll drop potato slices in there and then let it sit for like, 2 or 3 days. By the way, there's the picture. Thank you, internet. That's so helpful. This is what I just drew. Except the internet did a much better job. um, and what you'll see is like when you come back to those potato slices, you can actually see here, right? The water will actually move into some of the slices and it'll actually cause the potato slices to like expand and get like sucked in with water. So in this case, plain water has less particles in it than a potato because a potato has lots of like potassium in it, right? But salt water doesn't. So the potato floats. So you'll actually see like the potato strips will inflate in fresh water because the water moves into the potato easily. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But it doesn't happen with salt water because salt water's already got its own particles. So nature's like, no, you can stay over there and you can stay over there. That's fine. Like, so nature just always is trying to balance out concentration. So that's us. You drink salt water. Now you've introduced like water that has a bunch of particles in it. So your water, which does have particles in it, you got all kinds of like little organelles and proteins and enzymes and stuff, but it's way less than how much like particles of stuff is in salt water. So your water inside of your cells will actually leave your cells. It'll walk right out the front door and into that salt water so it can push those salt particles away from each other because nature doesn't like having them all clumped up like that. So that is why salt water dehydrates you.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yep. Same thing is true of coffee or tea or anything that has like particles in it. That being said, coffee and tea, those little particles, the amount of them is way lower than salt water. So yes, it does kind of pull that water out for a second, but it's enough that your body is able to balance it back. So the whole like coffee and tea dehydrates you thing is kind of a myth. It would be true if there were as many particles in coffee as there are in salt water. It would be true if that were true. So like it's based in a thing that makes sense, but it actually in practicality doesn't actually shake out like that. So don't be afraid, guys. Your coffee does count as your hydration per day, just not as much as you think it does. If you're getting 8 ounces of coffee, it's like drinking, I don't know, 7 ounces of water. I made those numbers up. I would have to look it up if I wanted to actually know. So there we go, right? So water does a lot of stuff. It cools our body down. It makes us more resistant to temperature fluctuations, helps with our chemical reactions. Hydrolysis is huge, helps us balance our pH, and it allows us to have bodily fluids, which, hey, we need those. Like we need bodily fluids so we can move stuff around. We need snot so we can grab a virus and pin it down. Like we gotta be able to move stuff, So what are some good sources? Water is water. The best source, drink some freaking water. But you do get a lot of water from fruits and vegetables. And then you can even metabolic water. You make some ATP, guess what? Water is a byproduct. And you're constantly losing, you're gaining water in a lot of different ways. You're also losing water in a lot of different ways. So urination, defecation, sweating, and what we call insensible processes, aka insensible sweating. You are all sweating right now. I don't care how cold you are. You are sweating just a little bit. I'm sweating a lot. It's freaking hot in here. You can go turn my AC on, but yeah. So you're constantly trying to balance out your water levels inside your body. So we talked yesterday about like being in a positive nitrogen balance. That's more protein coming in than there is protein going out. Or being in a positive energy balance. That's more calories coming in than calories coming out. Well, you also should be in a positive water balance. There should be more water coming in than water going out. If that is true, then your body is going to urinate regularly, and it'll probably be a relatively like normal color, like a little yellow, but mostly pretty lightly colored. If you are in a negative water balance and you are peeing and it looks like dark yellow, or it looks brown especially, if it's brown, go to the hospital. But that means you are in such a negative, there's so little water coming in, you need to get hydrated. And that can cause a lot of things like heat stroke, like we talked about, was on Wednesday. So heat stroke, really, really dangerous. The lack of water causes your blood to get thicker. That causes lack of oxygen delivery to the brain, and the brain basically suffocates. So heat-related disorders, it starts with heat cramps. It eventually leads to heat exhaustion, which is where somebody will start to act kind of confused. They will be very cold feeling to the touch, even though it is crazy hot outside. That is where their body is basically using up all of the last of its water. Their pulse will be really fast because their heart's trying to pump faster because their blood is basically really thick now. There's not as much water in it. So it's like pumping faster because it's not flowing. Really bad place. And then their blood pressure is actually really low because, again, there's just less blood in the body right now because all that water has evaporated. So they are on their way to, and then finally we have heat stroke, which is where they are no longer cold feeling to the touch. They are burning hot to the touch. They have muscle coordination, full-blown mental confusion, and then even disorientation where they literally don't know what's going on. If you notice any of these things, try to cool the body down and get them hydrated immediately and call for medical help. If you suspect somebody has heat stroke, call an ambulance. If they have like heat exhaustion, you'll get it sometimes. Like you'll see people really like struggle in the heat. Just get them to rest and get them hydrated. If they're getting heat cramps, yeah, get them rest, get them hydrated. I probably did the worst that I have in a long time. I was like a little dehydrated last Saturday. And sure enough, I got home and I was like, relaxing after ultimate and totally got like cramped up. Just didn't do a good job hydrating like I normally do, So that's dehydration. Now it is rare, but you can also get hyperhydration. This is what we call hyponatremia, which is actually where you get so overly hydrated that you do start losing. And Yasmin, this is why I wouldn't worry too much about getting too many of minerals and canceling each other out. For the most part, you lose a lot of minerals through pumping water around. Minerals don't really have a choice. They get flowed in water, So you get super hydrated and you can actually pee out minerals sometimes. Hyponatremia is where you drink so much water, your body's like, oh my gosh, I got too much water, I gotta get this out. So you pee all the time and you end up like losing minerals because of that. And so you end up like diluting sodium and then like you end up with like heat cramps and stuff. So this is based on like percent of body loss. If you are losing 1% of your body weight, that is probably going to be a little bit of thirst, a little thirsty. If you get up to like 11%, you're gone. And this is why I want to pay attention to your yellow. This, guys, this is what you want your urine to look like. I know it's a weird picture, but like, hey, we like kind of like some weak lemonade. If it's like perfectly clear, well, you might actually be, a little overly hydrated. Good problem to have. Again, brown, go to the doctor immediately. Really dark yellow, please go drink some water. Yellow in general, go drink some water. So how much water per day? Here's the one I want you all to know. 2.7 liters a day for women, 3.7 liters a day for men. That is 3/4 of a gallon for women and pretty much a gallon for men, just barely over.
Why would it be a little bit less for women? Would it
Smaller
because
average body size.
ah
Yeah,
okay.
it's a really stupid thing. It has nothing to do with your sex. It's just they're assuming that most women are just smaller.
Jokes on them.
It seems like at this point they could always just say based on body size. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. So there are other hydration methods, but they haven't updated it to be that's the one I need you to know. So
Right.
I am playing into the whole sexism here. Yeah, no, it'd be way more effective to base it on body weight. It is, I think it's 14 ounces. No, that's not right. What is it? It's in here. Is it in here? No, it's not in here. Hold on. Half an ounce to an ounce for every pound that you weigh. So that's a little bit of a better way to do it.
Yeah.
But not the one I need you to know. 2.7, 3.7,
Right.
please.
Right.
Until you pass your exam. Then whatever system you want to go with. You can see water content of different foods. Again, cereal does have some, surprisingly. Butter even has some water in it, But yeah, lettuce is the big one. Now, what about other things? Here are things that can cause fluid loss. Like I said, caffeine and alcohol especially. Alcohol, your body has to use a lot of water to break alcohol down. So that takes a lot of water, actually. But yeah, caffeine. Here's the thing. Coffee dehydrates you because caffeine also causes peristalsis. So it causes your body to filter and move things. That's why, like, if you've ever had like coffee, like 20 minutes later, you're like, whoop, you need to go to the restroom right now. Like it's about half an hour before that kick in. You're like, whoop. There is something special about caffeine kind of triggers that to happen, but at the same time, it is also a flowing agent, so it does also cause you to urinate more frequently. So that could be where coffee also does dehydrate you. Alcohol, your body actually has to use water to break it down. High protein diets, where you are not getting very many carbohydrates, but you're getting lots and lots of amino acids, your body can convert those amino acids through gluconeogenesis. Well, that takes water, right? Certain medications that have a diuretic effect, also going to make you lose water. So all of those things could cause dehydration. It is important to make sure that if you have high caffeine, high alcohol, or high protein diets, you probably even get even more. Go above and beyond that 3.7, go above and beyond that 2.7. So optimal hydration should stimulate. You should be going to the bathroom every 1 to 2 hours. And it should be pretty pale in color. And ideally, your best sources are going to be water, juices, coffee and tea are good sources. Sports beverages, soups, fruits, vegetables, all of those have plenty of water content in them. Caffeine in moderation, alcohol minimized, and then just be aware of the certain diuretic effects like certain medications have. And I say medications in particular. There's very few supplements that cause a diuretic effect. But certain medications can cause you to pee more often or cause you to retain water or lose water more frequently. So we want to make sure we're getting plenty of water because it is going to set the stage for optimal performance. You gotta stay hydrated. So before exercise, and again, this is just saying the same damn thing over and over and over again. Guess what? If you avoid being hydrated, you're gonna have fatigue, dizziness. You're gonna feel your temperature go up until eventually you get really dehydrated, and then you'll actually start to feel really freaking cold. You'll have an increased heart rate. You'll have an increased exertion level. Things just feel harder, and that results in reduced performance. So ideally, ACSM and everybody else believes you want to get anywhere between 13 and 20 ounces of water 4 hours or prior to exercise to make sure that you're being very well hydrated. And then throughout activity, you want to get anywhere from 7 to 10 ounces right before exercise starts. And then while you're exercising, anywhere from 16 to 30, this is not on here right now, but anywhere between 16 and 32 ounces of water per hour of exercise. So you think about like Trisha, you think about like a hydration schedule for you. I'm sure you've already probably talked about this before, but
I aim for at least 20 ounces an hour.
an hour. That would make sense. Again, like
Yeah.
smaller body, that actually would make sense. Me, I aim for about 32. When I try to drink one of these 32-ounce protein shakers, your classic, whatevers. I try to kill one of those. I play Ultimate for about 2 hours every Saturday. Try to kill 2 of those
Right.
while I'm playing. You got to be careful. You do it too much, you get like that. But
What were those numbers again?
what's that? Wait, what was your question? As you were just poking fun?
What were the numbers again?
Oh, for me, 28, about 28 to 32 ounces per hour. I think it might be 16 to 32 ounces.
I heard 16 to 30 ounces. That's why I'm like double checking.
I don't see it on here. Maybe it's on one of my other slides.
No, you mentioned it wasn't on the slides because on the slide it only said 200 to 300 milliliters, something like that. I don't know. I can't remember.
If you really want to like get crazy specific about it, okay, 3 to 8 every 15 to 20. That's so stupid. I gotta do math now. So that would be.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. 12 to 30, yeah, 12 to 32. So that's actually lower on the bottom end. 12 to 32 per hour of physical activity. Yeah. So just aim for 32. That's what I said. Good sources. Again, freaking water, juice, milk, coffee, tea, sports drinks. Okay. So try to stick to your hydration schedule. Get some. If you don't like water, great, drink some juice. You don't like juice, I guess milk. I'm like, I think that's crazy. You're gonna be so goopy while you're trying to play sports, but
That sounds gross during
yeah,
sports.
it's on the list apparently. I'm
That
like,
sounds
I wouldn't do
disgusting.
that. Like, I think that's crazy personally, but yeah, it's mostly water, so I get it.
Does anybody know who does drink milk before exercising?
I drink milk after exercise. I think it's a great source of protein post-exercise.
Yeah,
But after, but during,
Like-
it seems like it just doesn't seem like it'd be phlegmy or something. I don't know. It just
yeah,
seems
Yeah,
that's
you'd
what I
be-
was thinking
you'd
because
be
I have that
hocking
reaction with milk. If I drink like regular milk, I start getting phlegmy and like a gross taste is in my mouth.
Yep, absolutely.
Gross.
well, especially for you. I mean, yeah, you're allergic to it.
Truly. So, and then you've got your blood plasma. You are trying to maintain like the water in your blood. Without it, it is going to mess up your whole cardiovascular system because again, it has to pump sludge now, instead of like this nice fluid. So, how much water should be based on, again, body size, which is why we have different levels for men and women. That's just average body sizes. Exercise intensity, working harder, you need more water. If it's hot outside, you need more water. If it's humid outside, you need more water. You're wearing a parka while you're exercising, that's crazy. You're gonna need more water. All those things. And acclimation is a big one. If you are new to an environment, when I first came here, I was like, I'm so thirsty all the time. It was like living in Southern California versus Oregon. I was not acclimated, So like that's another one. Like maybe you're gonna need more water. So short duration activities. When it comes to like electrolytes, any electrolytes is probably sufficient. Longer duration activities, you're probably going to want to focus on electrolytes. So getting like a sodium or potassium electrolyte drink, like Gatorade can be fine, but you can also just get like if you don't like the taste or you want something that doesn't have any sugar in it, or any added like chemicals and stuff, yeah, go with like a healthier electrolyte powder. That's totally fine. And that can be really, really helpful because you're going to be losing minerals through your sweat. Fortunately, that's why your sweat's so salty tasting. It just comes out, you're going to lose it. When it comes down to determining calculating sweat rate, if you really want to get like crazy specific, guys, the best thing you can do is weigh yourself before you exercise, weigh yourself out after you exercise, and make up the difference with water. And literally, how did you lose weight while you were like literally at the gym? Maybe some of those carbon atoms got exhaled, but yeah, you lost it from water. So go restore that much water. And that can be really helpful. Same thing is true of like your macros, vitamins, and minerals. It's a great place to kind of throw some water, your hydration in. Protein shakes, gosh, they are convenient. I'm not saying they are necessary, but I promise you they are very, very, very convenient. So if you are doing carbohydrates during exercise, glucose, sucrose, or whatever, should be anywhere between like 60 to 66 grams per hour to maintain like your energy and power output. Which, hey, let's take a look at a bottle of Gatorade. Again, it was invented for sports originally, just as a record. One bottle is about 36 grams. So it's all sugar. It's sugar water, So 1.5 of those, it's probably just the right amount per hour of activity to really make sure that you are just staying super hydrated. But again, it doesn't have to be Gatorade. You can do
I can't drink Gatorade. Yeah, Gatorade has too much citric acid in it for me. I will literally throw it up. It doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I get where it comes from. And all these recommendations are based out of like a lot of research that was done
In my personal opinion, I think Body Armor is way better. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. Sure. I'm just on like sitting on the stomach, the way I can drink it during a workout. And usually when you're very, very thirsty and you're drinking a Body Armor, it tastes like a super salty tropical drink. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
I love
it. Definitely tastes better than Gatorade.
Yeah, Body Armor just tastes way better.
I don't know if I've ever had Body Armor.
Really? Okay, better.
That's the one. This is not the one Kobe Bryant owned part of.
Yep.
Oh, is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I've never.
So if you scroll back up, Tropical Punch, the yellow one, amazing. Fruit Punch, amazing. The strawberry banana, amazing.
See, I'm not a big sports drink guy in general. But yeah, I'm all for it. I think that sounds great.
See, but
I use Tailwind
water. That's why I like it.
Yeah, love that.
I tend to use.
Which one?
I use the hydration.
Tailwind. It's a powder you can buy for specifically for endurance athletes.
I'm used to liquid or whatever that's.
Tailwind. Tailwind.
Oh, Tailwind.
I heard Tailwind too.
Gotcha. I don't know that one either. Yeah, 25, a little bit less sugar, but
I use the sugary one. I use the hydration IV from Target.
They have a cola one. Where?
You'd be happy to know that there's actually a Mexican-owned brand of like liquid IV lines, and they have an horchata flavor.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, fake horchata flavor. That's a hard swing. I wonder if it's any good.
I can't drink it anymore. I hate it.
Yeah, I like coconut milk or coconut water. Fine. Coconut water's good.
Yeah, coconut is amazing for you. That's actually like the best form of electrolytes to kind of like digest if you're really looking for it. Like, I mean, what I try to explain to people as I was like, Hawaiians were Hawaiians for a very long time before, Americans came over, and they literally survived off of coconut water. So yeah.
It is high in sugar still, but I mean, compared to water, but it's way less in sugar compared to Gatorade. So, again, these are all things you got to consider, right? If you're, trying to keep your protein up, maybe a protein bar and water could give you the same things. You know, if that protein bar does have like plenty of potassium in it with the added benefit of protein. But then you got to consider it's like that processing of that's actually going to dehydrate you a little bit. So maybe you need more water. So it's a tough conversation. We all have different tastes and stuff, you know? So when it comes down to it, you're looking for beverages. If you do want a sports drink, sodium, chloride, potassium, and then if it's got some magnesium and calcium in it, those are not necessarily all, they can act as sort of indirect electrolytes. So they interact with electrolytes, which is still beneficial and good. So one thing that you do want to look at though is what you want to avoid though, guys. This is something to be a little bit careful of, especially Trisha, you said you like the powders. Be a little bit careful about like you're like, oh, well, it's way more efficient. Let's say you put all your powder in a cup like this. Actually, this is fairly large, but let's say half of this, right? Because you're like, yeah, that's great. Now it's more concentrated. I can kill it more quickly. Remember you're talking about Frank? Frank likes to do his like dry scoop thing. One of the things that's problematic with that is you got to consider the osmolality of your fluid, right? So it's the concentration of dissolved particles in your solvent, in your fluid, right? So Gatorade, they found that like that's kind of like a good amount, which is why all the other companies kind of follow it. They're all around the same bottle size. They're all around the same concentration. If you have a super high concentration of those electrolytes, they can actually dehydrate you. Because I said earlier, you don't want to drink salt water. Guess what? You don't want to drink potassium water either. You don't want to drink particle water because it can actually dehydrate you rather than hydrate you. But if it's actually more hydrated, guess what? The exact opposite is true. It'll push it into your cells more effectively. So you actually want the concentration kind of low, which is why they're
definitely.
What's that?
Definitely. No, I'm very good about following the directions on how much.
Yeah, so if it says mix your powder with 16 to 20 ounces of water, don't mix it with 8. Yeah, I had to tell it to my mom because my mom's horrible about drinking and she loved those crystal lights. I was like, oh my God, I hate it. All right, we're almost there. So what affects how you're going to drink water? Flavor is one, you know, clearly we all have our different tastes. Exercise intensity, your environment, the amount of electrolytes per liter of fluid, the temperature, and how much protein it has. If you have a really high protein diet, you're going to need more. Keep fluids available during exercise, sports. Oh, there it is. If your exercise is longer than 90 minutes, you probably want to do a sports beverage rather than just using water because it will have electrolytes and sugar in it. Post-exercise, the best source of post-exercise, like you're done exercising, water. You don't need the Gatorade afterwards, you know. You're not, I mean, maybe a little bit. That's all I'm saying. Like, that's the recommendation here. They always say, like, after exercise, it should be water. But you know, like if you want to get your muscle glycogen back and you want to do a little bit of like, you know, some carbohydrates in your fluid, but you're probably better off like eating something instead. Whole fruits, vegetables, and juices can do a really good job of like replacing that. So again, here's our recommendations: 13 to 20 ounces, a couple hours before, 7 to 10 ounces right before, and then there it is, during exercise, 7 to 10 ounces for every 10 to 20 minutes of exercise. So at the most, that would be 100 ounces, or no, 60 ounces over an hour. That's actually probably a lot. But again, I like the 30. So post-exercise, again, start hydrating quickly. Water is probably your best one. Be careful of supplements post-exercise because that can actually dehydrate you. And there it is. There's the frickin' repeat itself 50 times. That was like 40 slides for this much. I'm going to find whoever wrote that PowerPoint. I'm going to punch him.
Well, you know what? If you actually read the book,
yeah, it's very circular.
The NASM book, it does a lot of that.
Yeah.
All the chapters. It does a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
It's almost like they had one person write page 1 and someone else write page 2.
Oh yeah, I mean they do have a team. It is true. If you look at the front page of your book, it'll say who it's written by. You will see it's a very large team. Yeah.
So then they don't get together as to what information they put in
Well,
there.
I think it is also sometimes important to repeat yourself. I think it's more like the editors, though. Everybody, like, that's what editing is.
I'm convinced.
Try to
I'm
be
convinced
like,
NASM is run kind of like how Sochi is.
yeah, right. We also say the same. I say the same thing over and over again. I just try to do it on different days.
Honestly, I don't mind the repetition because that just kind of drills it more into you.
Right.
Well, repetition is good, but when it's exactly the same information,
Right.
I mean,
The
not
same lesson. I'm like, oh, I will say,
exactly,
I always make the
exactly. Or they're told that it has to be a certain amount of pages, maybe, and you just repeat it again to fill that.
The joke I make is that like I teach you guys 100 things 500 times.
Well, that's it. I mean, you kind of need that. I mean, but you introduce if it's introduced in a different way.
Right. Yeah.
That is learning.
Killing the recording, letting you all out of here.
Thank
Guys,
you.
thank you for bearing with. Those are the two hardest PowerPoints in my whole program for you guys because it's just like, so I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I really do. And I will see you guys on Monday for a lot more fun on Monday.
Be prepared. It is supposed to storm this weekend. There is a cyclone coming through, so please, everybody.
Is it supposed to rain tomorrow?
I think it's supposed to be here by Sunday. They said.
Okay.
So roll it in.
Good, because I have my long run tomorrow. I don't want rain.
No, yeah, I was checking the weather, so the weekend should be fine. They said, but around Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, yeah, it's gonna get crazy.
It's gonna rain.
Look, because as long as it's not within the next couple of hours, because I
That's what I said. I said, please just let me have one sunny weekend before I leave. Like I can't deal with this.
Sunny right now.
But yes, you guys have a great day and be safe.
Yeah, stay safe, guys.
Thank you.
Go see Wicked.